Hey y'all, Jeremy James here, the Bourbon Realtor. I am joined today with two people who, in the whiskey geek society, need no introduction. Mr. Mark and Sherri Carter from Old Carter Distillery. Absolutely love the work that they do. Welcome to our show, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy, for having us.
Well, I thank you all for joining us today. And just really, we've been trying to get on for a little bit. I mean, it's been a bit.
Yes, it has.
Of course, it's been difficult to get everybody on lately, but so. You guys are some non-distilling producers, and some of the best non-distilling producers literally in the game. So tell us a little bit about how you guys got Old Carter started and what kind of prompted you to throw your hat in the ring, if you will.
Sure.
Do you want to start?
No, you should start. Goes way back. But should we start with a little something to sip on?
Oh, you definitely got to sip.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have a
You
sip.
start and I'll
Okay.
pour.
Very fortunate. I started quite a few years ago with a small inn, and the inn grew, and I was in charge of the wine program in the wine cellar, and just loved all the different producers, and eventually you decide you want to make wine yourself.
Right.
So we did. We started a brand called Carter Cellars back in '98, and it became very successful enough to actually buy a winery in 2006. And with a partner named Nils Fendi. Well, Nils and I operated that. We weren't making any money at the time because we had two very small brands, and the mortgage was pretty high, so we started doing some custom crush for other people. And I looked around to all my friends that were innkeepers around the United States, and only one guy stepped forward, and he was in Kentucky here.
Right?
Yeah, salute.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Yeah. And so he wanted a little red wine and a little white wine. And that was Dixon Deadman for the Belmont Inn.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, Dixon, we could do that, but it wasn't really a premium wine.
Right.
It was going to be a by the glass program. I said, but your dad told me a story about 20 years ago that you guys used to make bourbon.
Right.
I said, why don't we bring your bourbon brand back? And Dixon said, we could do that. I said, Dixon, we can do anything we set our minds to. So we brought back Kentucky Owl back in 2011,
Right.
and produced our first bottles in 2014.
Yeah.
And we had a heck of a good time with that. And
Some of the best bottles, by the way.
well, thank you. We did.
We-
Six batches.
We've been sampling back and forth, and it's like we really love that older stuff. It's just finding it's the problem.
It's getting pretty rare.
Yeah.
We only made about 350 cases of bourbon altogether. But it sold in 2017, and we weren't done. We said, hey, we love Kentucky,
Yeah.
and we love bourbon. And so we started our own brand, Old Carter Whiskey Company, in 2017, and
Right.
our first kind of bottles that we produced for us in 2018.
Yeah.
And we, Sherri can tell you a little bit about the label and everything, because she is the art department.
The label is the bottle's got that old school styling, and the label is just absolutely classic.
Thank you.
For me, this is one of the easiest no-brainer picks. I don't have to look. If it says Old Carter on the front, I'll take the chewing from my wife when I get home. Whatever. This is going home with me all the time.
Thank you.
Jeremy.
But yeah, so tell us a little bit about the inspiration for bottling and labeling and everything else.
Sure. So a lot of folks ask about the horse, and I'm
Mhm.
glad that you brought up that it looks like a classic label.
Yeah.
That was our goal. Wanted it to look like you weren't really sure what decade or century maybe
Right.
that it came from. So the horse itself, actually, I don't know, Jeremy, can you reach
Yeah, you have
behind
some
you and
prints,
grab
right?
that print?
Yeah.
You can hold that up, and if folks can see it, but that is an original woodcut that I did in the late 90s.
Oh wow!
So I did a whole series of these horses, and this one is called Heavy Horse, and it is the very first piece of artwork that this gentleman came and purchased from me in one of my open studio events.
That's the way to get to it.
Hey, I try.
It was
I try to work
it was a long ago in a galaxy far away,
Yeah.
but
I love the piece.
Right.
In fact, it was so strong. I said this is a great piece, and picked it up. And we didn't know we'd be making a bourbon brand back then, 20 years ago.
well, certainly
Right.
not. So, but it just seemed to just really fit in. I tried to. We were actually working at the beginning on the label with some imagery that was more like very traditional illustrations of maybe a horse behind, a plow,
Mm-hmm.
and like a farming illustration because Mark's family long ago were farmers,
Right.
and grew crops for the whiskey industry
They were
back
down
in
in
the day.
Somerset, Kentucky.
Oh yeah,
So-
just south of us. Yep.
So we wanted to do something like that, and then we both remembered this specific image and dropped it into the layout, and it just worked really well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's just iconic.
Thank
Thank you.
And of course, we're in Kentucky, so we do horses, but there's so much publicity around thoroughbreds and everything else that the working horses usually get overlooked.
Yeah.
And so to see a working horse.
Yes, I'm from northeastern Ohio, so lots of work horses in
Yep.
that area. I grew up on a horse farm, so horses are one of my big passions and loves in life.
Nice.
Besides this guy.
I love it. So what we're sipping right now, this is the batch 1 of the straight rye whiskey. And tell us a little bit more about how you started with that.
Well, this is the very first release that old Carter ever let go.
Yeah.
And
So
when
that
you said
bottle's
you
going to just, if that's not here in like an hour or so, just don't ask questions. Just
well, so this is the very first bottle that we released, and we did a rye 1 and a rye 2 at pretty much about the same time.
Mhm.
And Mark might want to tell that story a little bit.
Well, we had been doing only bourbons with Kentucky Owl. And Sherri did that label too,
Right.
the original one, batch 1 to 6. Those labels, they changed a little bit after that. But,
Yeah.
So we decided instead of doing bourbon, why don't we do rye or something a little different than bourbon?
Yep.
So, it's we're starting fresh, new, let's do something new. So we worked really hard on doing a blend for this rye. And it took us forever. We did probably 100 different blends.
Yeah.
We did a lot of blends.
And we had 2 that we came down to that we were just in love with. One I liked a little better.
Yeah.
Sherri, she liked the other one a little better. So it was really tough to make a decision. We thought we'd take it out to the public.
Right.
We took it to all our friends that were bartenders in Louisville and Lexington and said, which one do you like? And we kind of had a running total, and it was a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And then we were, we got these friends, they have this magazine called Bourbon Review,
Mhm.
and Justin Thompson, Justin Sloan. So we'll take it to them, the experts.
The experts.
Right,
They'll
of course.
tell us.
They'll tell us which one's the
50.
best,
They like
which one
that.
we should roll out with.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was a 50-50
50 split.
just like you said. And then I go, the one, Justin Thompson, he's kind of grunting over there, what should you do about this, And then he said, well,
Do you want the good news or the bad news?
and I like good news. So
Yeah.
I said,
I want the good news.
What's the good news? He says, the good news, there is no bad news. They're both great.
Yeah.
Can you turn them both out?
Yeah.
You
And we looked at each other like, why didn't we think of that? Yeah, we can because
they're separate barrels.
we didn't have any overlapping barrels in the
Nice.
2 blends.
Yeah. Perfect.
So it was a
Yeah,
little bit of a
pretty
So you
miracle.
just doubled your first release right there. Absolutely.
we were very excited, and
Yeah.
so we thought that was a fitting beginning for you.
Yeah.
And we don't tell anyone whose is whose. So
Right.
It's our, and
So
we've gone
it's a
on.
competition just between you,
Yeah.
y'all.
Oh no,
Absolutely.
no
Yeah.
competition at all.
There's no competition. in
You're
this
Oh.
looking at the spreadsheets going, I'm just saying.
I think I know. I might be up. But
That's incredible.
so, to be clear, the rye is the only spirit that we do those on. So
Gotcha.
since then, every year we've released a his and hers.
Gotcha. So who's his number 6?
I'm not telling you.
We don't tell them. You have
Because that's the one I've got. And let me tell you, I'm just going to say it's in our. We have we have 17 that are in our whiskey of the year category, and it's in the running, and that will be we're bringing our scores together at the end of the year,
Wow.
or at the end of the week. Excuse me.
And just
we're just honored
we'll
to be
be
here.
on the edge of the seat to
Yeah,
see
it's
who
because-
wins that one.
And this one has a lot of the same characteristics as that 6, and I don't know if it's just a palate profile that you guys are looking for when you are blending these, but it's a much, even for a rye whiskey, It doesn't have that really sharp dill. It's not all that kind of stuff. It's much more. It's much more a bourbon drinker's rye.
That's kind of what we think.
We
So
go for
I
that.
like exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think we go for that across the board with rye.
And it's got, because this has it too. It's a much softer kind of palate as far as the flavors. It's sweet. I'm getting a lot of like nutmegs and cinnamons, and not even like the fireball cinnamons, but that's that subtle
nice
apple pie cinnamon.
Right, like an actual stick.
Right, and that is.
And I think that what you're talking about with rye too. A lot of people had been turned off by rye because a lot of the ryes are very young and they show so much spice and heat.
Mm-hmm.
And these, everything we do is around 7 years old,
right?
Unless it's age stated.
Yeah.
Then you've got crazy.
I've also got the 13-year on my shelf.
Oh, very cool.
Thank you.
There's nothing wrong with age either.
No.
So, well, excellent. Well, that is that. I'm just honored to be able to have one of the first, and it is first. It's batch
first
one.
Batch,
yeah, batch one. There's nothing wrong with that. That is really. This is why, right here, why this is a no-brainer for me across the board. There are a couple different labels that simply is a no-brainer whenever I see them.
Thank you.
And this is one.
One of the other things we were known for, I believe, if they don't know, we've never ever cut anything. Not Kentucky Owl, not Old Carter. They're all barrel proof, and we don't filter either.
Nice.
So that's a decision we made very early on.
But you're definitely, with those decisions, you're hitting all the whiskey nerd stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's what we feel really brings you the spirit of the barrel,
right?
And the true nature of the whiskey. You're welcome to put water in it, put
drink
ice
it how
in
you
it,
like it.
drink it exactly how you like it. It's your bottle to do with what you shall do.
Yeah.
And but we like to give you all of the flavor to begin with.
But that way you have all the options.
You do.
That's what we think.
Now I've got a motto, and I'm gonna get something hung over my bar. We're doing a full reno, and it's gonna say, "You're welcome to drink your whiskey any way you want. You're just not welcome to drink my whiskey any way you want."
Fair enough.
That's just it. You pay yours. You do what you want to do. Mine, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Old Carter and Coke. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not happening.
You can do it, but it's a little more expensive.
That's a really top line cocktail. Maybe Wolfgang Puck or
somebody with a lot of
Gordon
money.
Ramsay or something like that. Their restaurants are going to do it, but not in my bar for sure.
We like drinking things neat. I like cocktails too.
Yeah.
Sherri turned me on to cocktails a long time ago. When I first met her, almost
In fact, Mark he hardly even drank bourbon until he met me.
I was a wine guy.
See?
Yeah.
Well, that follows my trajectory. I didn't start drinking until I was 35. And it was a family thing, whatever. We'll save that for my therapy. And 35, I started drinking craft beer. Well, everything turned IPAs at that point, and I'm not a heavy hops guy.
Yeah.
Because they were filtering hops, packaging with hops, throwing hops at you while you drank it. I was just like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I'm done with the hops. I got into wines, loved the big reds.
Yeah.
Loved them. But the heartburn. Oh, killed me with the heartburn. And so, of course, living in Kentucky, it didn't take me long to start gravitating toward bourbon. And as a foodie myself, bourbon hits everything that I love about food. It's got the big, strong aromas. It's got the histories. It's got the characteristics. It's got the age. It's got the stories. And the flavor is just so big and so bold that for me, once I began drinking bourbon, I didn't look back.
Yeah.
That was it for me. I was done.
We think it's a meal too.
We do.
Oh, well, I call them whole grain smoothies.
Whole grain smoothies. Let's go on to the second course. Rob.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I'm going to let you pour, Jeremy. So,
now I'm a liberal pourer, just so you know.
that's on you, my friend.
So let's see. This is the very small batch. This is not the one that just released in December, is it?
Yes.
This is released in New York and New Jersey, and they just picked theirs up. So this is going to be available probably this week in those two states.
Very nice. Very exclusive. Awesome.
Yes.
So not available in Kentucky yet.
You've already the one we did for
Was
Kentucky.
that the 500?
We'll talk.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
let's talk about that. So the first thing that we
Ladies
tasted.
first.
Oh, thank you. I'll pour mine.
Okay.
You get yours.
Yeah.
You said you're a liberal
poor.
We got to go
So-
to the equator, though,
So
right?
yeah, I'm gonna pour mine.
Yeah. A little less than that
All
for
right.
me too,
You
Jeremy.
just tell me when.
That's
Probably.
good.
There we go.
Thank you.
You're gonna go to the equator. So the first rye that we poured was one of our small batches, and our small batches they kind of run between a 7 and a 13 barrel blend is kind of where
Yeah.
our little sweet spot is
Right.
for our small batches, and that tends to yield between 1,100 to 2,500
Yeah, 25.
bottles per batch.
Mm-hmm.
We decided we wanted to do something special for each of our distributors currently, and we have 6 of them. 6 or 5?
Yes, 6.
6. So we came up with these 3 barrel blends, which we've named the very small batches.
Yeah.
And these very small batches are all straight bourbon. They're all Indiana.
Which we know where they came from.
Yeah.
NDAs
And so
include.
you look
We
at the
don't
back,
Very simple.
and we're pretty transparent. You
Yeah.
look at the back, where it came from. If
Yeah.
it's Tennessee, if it's
Yeah.
if it's
Because
Indiana.
Alan Bishop at French Lick isn't sourcing yet, so,
Yeah.
so that narrows things down pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so this
So good.
is the blend. And so we created the blends
Right.
and sent samples of each blend to our distributors.
Gotcha.
And then they selected from a small selection of blends
Oh, nice.
which one they wanted. So their staff was involved in the selection process,
Mhm.
which was really fun. First time we've done that. We don't do single barrel picks.
Yeah.
So this is a way for
Right.
us to continue to do our blending
Right.
and offer those options to the markets.
So the blending, that's like anybody who's done an infinity bottle realizes just how hard blending is, because it's not just a matter of me saying, hey, I love OWA, I love Woodlands Trail, and I love Old Forester 1920. Let's put them together and have this triple amazing bourbon,
Right?
and then you taste it and go,
That's
tastes
not
like
so
bourbon.
good. Not so good.
That's a lot of average.
I like
Yeah.
your analogy there. I never
That
thought
really
about
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're constantly making infinity bottles.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You guys are putting together infinity bottles. I mean, it's insane. And for the quality, and so whose palate are we working on? Do you have a tasting panel, or what are we working with?
The 2 of us.
Us.
Yeah, this is the whole. We have one other person
Yeah,
who
we-
you've known. or
We need to
talked
get an award for you two for palate. I mean, seriously, because these are on point.
This is
Thank-
what we do. This is what we love doing is blending.
When we get down to the wire and we're really like, we love these, we'll take them out and try them on some folks. But we really have our mind made up with
Yeah.
with this kind of stuff.
And the more you do, the more confidence you
Mm-hmm.
get. Actually,
But we feel really, we feel good about stuff.
Yeah.
we have a couple of tests that when we drink
Yes.
something, if it raises the hair on your arm or the back of your neck, yeah, that works.
Yeah, whatever that was,
Yeah,
do that.
that's the one. That's good.
And what I love about these 3 barrel blends, they were, because normally we're working with a lot more ingredients,
Right.
so to speak, barrel wise. With these, it really was. This is harmony or it is not harmony.
Yeah, it's a good
I mean,
word.
you did have a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah.
And so we're super happy with them. And I really love the fact that they're all very different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
And everybody's really happy. All the distributors that we have, or the 6 that we have around
Mhm.
the country,
Yep.
are enthusiastic, and the people that are buying, from those distributors in those areas have been really, got a lot of great feedback.
And we always strive in whatever we do for balance
Right.
and mouthfeel
Right.
and layers and
Yeah.
flavor.
Yeah.
And what I love about these
And
very
we'll
small
see.
batches
Mm-hmm.
is that each
Over
one of them that went out and how they chose, to me, they were all in different camps.
Yeah.
All the different regions.
Nice.
So that was really neat to see as from our side, letting it go. We talked about it. It was kind of hard to say,
Yeah.
they're
Take your
gonna
hands off it.
they're gonna pick the blend. Ooh, how's that gonna go? And it was so cool to see like who picked what.
And,
Right.
and we
Yeah.
put them together, and we loved them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't even send them.
Right.
Of course. But it was neat to see what direction
Well, it's
the different.
like here in Kentucky, we love that big bourbon profile thing. The vanilla oaks caramels. They're
And
almost
Kentucky picked the most classic.
the classic
The classic.
flavor. Right.
Yeah.
You go out west and it's much more of that western tobacco, leathers, a little bit sharper. I mean, that's like Texas, all that kind of area is I kind of put in one kind of category.
Yeah.
Now Woodinville, I think they're an outlier. I don't think they
agree.
fall into that
Yeah.
that big leather and tobacco category.
Yeah.
But then out east, you get into some of the stuff coming out of there, and it's more like a Canadian. I mean, kind of resembles more of what they've got going on as far as their whiskeys and things over there.
Yeah. And I don't know that these specific distributors went that specifically way.
Right.
But I mean, this to me is pretty spicy.
Mm-hmm. It's very good.
But balanced.
And that's what I mean, because that's the consistency that I get from each one of your bottles whenever I drink them. Is you don't have one thing that's just like flying out at you.
No.
It's almost like a spicy cognac that could exist. Because the finish on it is really smooth.
Yep. It's
Nice long finish.
Not to be so cliche as this.
I know,
is so smooth.
that's the word it's because we battle it all the time. Because I'm a word guy.
Yeah.
Smooth at this point has gotten to, especially in bourbon and whiskey talk, it has about 15 different meanings, which means it doesn't mean much. Because now it's like, okay, how does it work? But it's not like Stag Junior, which is just face melting hot. Even though we're still at, I mean, what are we proofing here?
Probably 19.
Yeah, 116.2. So it's in that Old Forester 1920
I
range.
love that bottle too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the best products in my book.
$60 bottle. I can walk in and grab it every day of the week without ever even thinking twice.
All right.
Yeah.
But I can bring these to anybody, and if they're just learning bourbon or whatever, I can bring it to them and know it's not just going to be a niche bourbon, that they're going to be able to taste it and appreciate it and really begin to like what's going on with it. And that's really why I like your brand so much.
Thank you.
Because there are some craft folks doing some things that are nerd centric, I guess we'll call it. You know, people like the hops and everything.
Yeah.
Looking for that one specific thing to bring out that is going to highlight and accent, whereas these are bringing the whole package together.
Cool. Well, we always knew when we started that we would never make the same thing twice.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have our balance, our creativity, we want it to be the best pour.
Mm-hmm.
We love that richness.
The quality must be there, but we know
The
we
depth.
can never repeat a profile.
Right.
We had a question from the group earlier that said, when you're blending, do you go for your own taste, or are you trying to hit a specific taste profile?
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
And every
So
once in a while, you're
quality
totally
is our-
shocked at what the barrels give.
And
Right.
like you said, you think they're going to be great together? Nope.
Nope, that doesn't work. So I assume you guys are taking samples from your barrels, which is a difficult process as it is, because the more samples you take, the less you can sell. So then you're taking.
We don't even think about that, Jeremy.
Sorry about that.
No.
We do want to
It's
taste
fine.
every barrel.
We wouldn't do it any other way.
So you're sampling. So how are you pulling your blends together? I mean, is it just
Sit down at a large table with a lot of
90% of this, 10% of this, and just kind of work
we
them?
do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's
We've
a
done
lot of note taking.
Yeah.
And there's
Sure
only
you-
one person that takes notes.
Thank goodness Sherri takes great notes. You know, I'm just like,
Because you'd be like, you're like me. Be like,
yeah, that's
I like
a
number
good
3. What was that? I don't know. We kind of poured a little bit. That works great for that, but it doesn't work for barrels.
You're so
Then
right.
I have to ask
So-
her, now what did we do again?
What did we do in there?
And she's got the notes. Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then when he goes rogue on me and does his own thing,
Yeah.
did you write that down?
Oh, it's these three
Yeah.
guys.
It's the old bartender trick. Yeah, you just count.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and then we are
We
those people that will do it and we're happy with it, and then somebody in this room might be the person that
Well, we
goes
could
back
try
and does
one or
it.
two more blends. He always wakes up and says, I was thinking last night, in the middle of the night. And so I got up and I started blending again. Here, try this at 4 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock.
Would you like a little cut to spit in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a true story.
Yeah.
That was a rye batch, and I did wake up. I couldn't sleep. Went downstairs. I had literally already sent the barrel pull request to the plant, and I was like, I was grunting.
Yeah.
So I'm up
Not
in the middle of the
satisfied.
night and I'm reblending and I'm poking around with stuff and I'm like, I gotta do it. I gotta make it. I gotta change it.
Yeah.
And so Mark hears me and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm doing nothing.
And then I go, "I need you to taste something." He's like, "Now?" I'm like, "Yeah, right now." And
That's
so
too funny.
I took the sample up to the bedroom and I asked him if he wanted a spit cup.
I mean, come on, at 4 a.m., just don't even.
I should have just thrown it back.
So
Beautiful.
yeah,
That would have been the right answer.
Yeah.
but what happened? I changed the blend.
Yeah.
Just so slightly.
Yep.
But I was happy that I did.
Yeah.
So some of those midnight, early morning ideas, you just start ruminating, just not settled. I've had some of those things in my life, and it's just an unsettled mind, and you're going to be disturbed until it's right.
Well,
And if I would have went and blended and I didn't like this much, then I could rest easy that
Right.
where I was where I should be.
and that's happened many times too.
Many times.
Yeah, she said, "Yeah, it's not any better."
Yeah.
I'm gonna. I
He's
think we're
really
done.
good. He's like, when he hits it and it raises the hairs and this is it.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I
cool.
really like this. This is
And then I'll go
Solid.
back and work more. But
Nice.
I like doing it.
yeah.
And sometimes even that changes. But
Nice.
it's a fun process. We do love it.